Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us live tonight for our Aish on Campus very, very special evening. We are very fortunate today to be hosting a once-off special. So many times, you know, we get lots of students coming to various events. It's very exciting, and so many times questions come to us the whole time and say, Rabbi, I'm really looking to meet a nice Jewish boy or a nice Jewish girl, and they ask us. And they say, Rabbi, can you help us out? Can you make something special happen? And we're very fortunate because, you know, part of what we do at Aish is host all kinds of different events. And one of the things that we are looking to do indeed is create a community and provide that opportunity for people, young Jews out there, to meet each other. So when we sat down and we asked ourselves, what could we possibly do? Who can we possibly bring in that would be a really, really interesting person to share their thoughts and share their ideas with us, especially at the current time when things are a little bit different to normal. Things are a little bit somewhat lonely. We're all stuck at home in our own houses, and it's like we're wondering, like, how do we get out? How do we connect with people? And especially for Aish, which is an organization that's mission is about connecting people. Our mission is about connection to each other and connection to Judaism. We have to find some way in this situation where we're all stuck at home to connect with each other. So we thought a little bit for a long time, and we came up with this idea that actually we've got to reach out to this incredible person. Jswipe is an app that literally taken the Jewish student community and the Jewish community by storm. I recently read actually they've been responsible. Jswipe as an app has been responsible for the engagement and marriage of thousands of young Jewish couples, thousands, which is really something quite incredible. That someone sat down on one side of the world, came up with an idea and a platform that could actually connect young Jews from absolutely anywhere and any kind of background, and produce what we would call happy Jewish homes. It's absolutely amazing. We're really, really fortunate. And based on that, we looked at Jswipe and said, who is the man, the brains behind all of this, who could actually help us understand the thinking behind the phenomenon that is Jswipe. And that man's name is David Yarus. So we reached out to David, who has agreed to come this evening all the way. He's not actually coming. Thankfully, one of the silver linings of the current situation is that we're able to connect with people that we wouldn't otherwise be able to connect with because they're so far away. But geographical connections and geographical situations aren't necessarily any limitations at the moment, because wherever you are in the world, you can connect through Zoom. Thank goodness for Zoom. For anyone who is had shares in Zoom, they've done very well. So I'm not going to speak anymore because it's a real privilege, and we're really honored that he's agreed to join us tonight, all the way from the other side of our pond of the Atlantic Ocean, the one and only founder, creator, and the brain behind what is Jswipe, David Yarus, who is just coming into our meeting now, and we're going to hear from him in a second. Let's just bring him on now and introduce the world. David, can you hear us?
I think so. Can you say something again?
Yes. David, thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Yes. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
It looks like you're in the middle of a rainforest somewhere.
I'm in Miami. I'm at home. I decided to get out of New York and spend some time with my family, which has been a blessing and, you know, fun and at times challenging, but all a blessing. Always a blessing.
You're fortunate at times like this. You're able to spend time with the family. It's the best place to be. But thank you so much for making some time for us. I don't know if you could hear us before. I was just sharing with our viewers, with our audience, why we thought it would be such a fantastic idea to welcome you onto the show. I said that Aish is an organization built around with a mission to connect people in different ways. And I guess Jswipe is similar in that respect, similar in the way that it's built to connect people. But really, we're not here to hear, people are not watching to hear from me. They really want to hear from you. And we've had a few people have been submitting questions that they wanted us to put to you and hear your thoughts. So I'm going to get going and see what you think and see where it goes.
Please.
So basically, the beginning of the journey is you looked at I guess, the world of dating apps, and what made you decide that we needed to have a Jewish dating app, something specific to the Jewish community?
Well, first, I mean, we definitely weren't the first, right? JDate was around. This would probably be 21 or 22. Like, they've been around for a while, but they just had apparently originally they were like the innovators, and they were pushing the entire space, the dating industry in general forward in the 90s, I guess. But I think it's an important lesson in business or in life. But eventually, they sort of, I guess, they rode their success and then got comfortable and stopped innovating. And they didn't have an app. They were only a website. It kind of felt a little, AOL.com-y, and eventually was mostly really resonating with our like parents and grandparents generation. And around that time, I mean, the story goes, I moved to New York in 2010 for a dream job and to meet a nice Jewish girl. And I moved to the Upper West Side because I was told that that's where they all lived. And I was doing all of the things to, meet people. I was going to all the Shabbats. I mean, for Shabbat and Upper West Side, it's like, it's a thing. It's a scene. And it's, I think of it as like spring break meets like Jewish. And it's this like thousands of people. It's really a fun, and wild experience. But I just found it's like pretty, unfortunately, like just like socially uncomfortable to go through the things and do the things you do to try to meet someone Jewish. And around that time, Tinder had, been launched by two Jewish Persian dudes in California. And the truth of the matter, I mean, and they just blew up the space. They disrupted everything. It was so far forward from where, the dating industry was, that people didn't even know how to really, handle it. But what it did was it created an easy, lightweight, like on your app, on your phone, convenient, fun way to meet people. And it was a really incredible piece of technology. But for someone who only wanted to meet someone Jewish, if that was important to you, it was important, is important to me. It wasn't the most convenient or effective or efficient, because you don't know. And then maybe you go through and you like, maybe your opening line is like, hey, are you Jewish? But that's not really a good opening line. Like,
Sure.
or you don't ask, and then it could just, and eventually you find out. And then if it's important to you, it's just not being respectful or responsible with either party's time. So, the truth is, people are like, how'd you come up with the idea? And I honestly believe, and I say jokingly, but I really mean it. Like, I think anyone on Tinder thought about the idea. We just did it. It was just about execution and actualizing a dream, and, just putting our heads down and taking a risk.
Sure. It sounds like it was like the natural next step. Like you were one of those classic entrepreneurs, saw a problem and developed the solution and actually made a business out of it, which is great. But a couple of students actually sent in a question along this topic. I wanted to ask your opinion on it. They said one of the categories when you're creating your profile is willing to convert. And they wanted to know, what's that about? Why is that there?
Oh, that could be a whole conversation on its own. That's a loaded topic. High level, I think it's because, I'm first a human. I identify first as a human, then I identify as a universalist, which means like I believe other people's truths are true to them as mine or mine is to me. And even just the thought of like creating a space that would I guess profile out people, like let alone the fact that I actually think it's illegal. I am pretty sure you can't create something that like discriminates based on probably all of the protected classes in one of the like religion or like sexual orientation, age. There's a bunch of protected class. Like I think it's illegal to not. Instead of doing that, and because I think it would feel really funny and is kind of counter to my way of being and experiencing the world to do that or do it in that way. We instead give the tools to the user. So we put the user in the driver's seat of what experience they want to have, because the next filter that the people asking that would then have to fill out is what are you, and then also what are you looking for. So let's say you are observant, and all you want to do is only see and date people who are observant. You just filter off everyone else, and you filter on who you're looking for. So really, it actually is possible that you could go through your experience and like never know the difference, or never know that there could be people who aren't in that, your filter set. But mostly because I believe in like universal oneness, and like it would just be weird and feel weird to be exclusionary. Yeah.
Sure. No, I respect that. And I wanted to ask a question as well. I wonder if you know, I don't know how you would know, but do you have a number like of Jewish marriages that have come about through Jswipe?
It's a good question. The truth of the matter is we make it up, but we make it off based on emails that like all of the inbound communications that we get, which is either DM or on the app, or people telling people who tell, someone who tells us, you know what I mean? Or sure. we find out in the last time we tried to track it, it was either way in the 6,000 to 8,000, and that was maybe a year or two ago. So now I'd say safely 10,000 plus, but also with an asterisk of like, don't really know. And I think that's, if anything, I think that's being conservative. And by the way, that blows my mind. Totally nuts. Totally nuts.
Yeah. I mean, it blows my mind as well. That's incredible. That was much, much, much higher than I thought. Because I have a couple of friends that ended up getting married, and I asked them, how did they meet? And they said Jswipe. So I figured if I know a few people already, it must be, it must be huge. That's amazing. And that's a real merit on your head and the people that you work with. That's amazing.
I'll tell you a quick funny story about that, which was it took a little while. Like we launched Passover 2014, and it took, until like, I feel like after the first year or so, we started to get a lot of those messages coming in. And then the longer we've been around, the more and more of those, come in. But the first email that we got about, someone getting engaged and then married was, I think, 3 months in. And like 3 months after launching, and it was a rabbi who got, engaged, and he was so excited. And we were so internally, like on our team, we were so pumped because it's the first time that this happened and the first email that we got like this, but we didn't share it publicly. Like we didn't share it out because we didn't want people to think like, oh, like only rabbis are the people who are like swiping. We wanted to like, really, we designed it, with, deep intention from the outset to be a place that across the Jewish spectrum, everyone feels comfortable and everyone is welcome. And so
that's great. For the record, for those watching, it wasn't me. Although for those watching, it is in fact my wedding anniversary. So this is a very appropriate. Yeah, it is.
Mazel tov.
It is today.
How'd you guys meet?
It's a very appropriate session to have today.
How'd you meet?
Thank you. Okay, we're getting to the meat of things here, and the real question at the moment is that with everything going on at the moment, everyone's stuck at home. Dating is it out the question? What do you think is the current best way to carry on that side of our lives?
It's such an interesting one because, as you can imagine, it's like the only thing that the teams are talking about and thinking about. So the first is, I think what's fascinating is a couple of things from this experience. One of them is the amount of time we've had to, let's just say, go in, right? Like instead of going out, now we have time to go in. And in that process of going in, lots of things have come up for lots of people in all different ways. For some, from friends, it's about like that they usually like that they maybe are uncomfortable just being on their own, or that like they would ordinarily fill their time up with like hanging out with people or talking to people or whatever it is, going out. For others, it's been like a sort of deep, internal reset and soul searching, time, etc. It's been different for everyone, but I think universally what we've encountered or come upon is the idea of the importance of whether we realize it or not day to day, the importance of human connection, and how that on like conscious and subconscious levels factors into our daily way of being, happiness, feeling of joy, feeling of love, all of these things that we usually take for granted. Like, oh yeah, I'll see my colleagues every day, I'll see my friends later on, I'll see, like, now that that's not happening, we realize what it is like to be with ourselves and the role that sort of being with others plays. That's sort of broad umbrella. Within that, I think it's really interesting because there was definitely a period in the beginning when we were like, oh, like what's going to happen from a dating app user and usage perspective? Like, is it just going to like all go away, or is it going to spike? Because oftentimes, for example, on like holidays or long weekends or like Thanksgiving weekend, when people are home with their family, usually you actually see spikes in activity. So I was thinking that it would spike. the truth is it's been like a little bit erratic. Like it goes down a little bit, up a lot, down. So it's not really, I couldn't tell you a steady, result other than didn't tank, didn't spike. It sort of like averages out. But I think what's happening is actually more interesting, which is I have a life coach, and I get this life coach from my friend, and what she, her, dating, love, find your partner, mentality, which by the way, I think is oftentimes, not unlike that of, many rabbis would suggest, is what first, broadly, get to know someone and understand them and talk to them and, on an intellectual, on an emotional level, first. So with that being the container, well, what my life coach specifically says is video first date. Like always have a FaceTime first date, because, personally, I believe that in some of the research we've done, but also just like secondhand people sharing, I think that 1 out of every 3 dating app first dates that you go on, the moment you get there, you just know from a knowing that like, wonderful person, but not my person. And in a time where we don't have, where we're all busy, we all have a lot going on, it's just, there's a way you could avoid that in general day-to-day life by having a FaceTime first date where you could talk to them, you can get an understanding for chemistry, for, conversation, etc. And usually when I tell people that, I get a lot of resistance. People are like, I don't know. And frankly, even personally, when I've thought about it, like, like I would be down for it, but I feel like just asking for it is is weird. Like I would feel weird asking like, hey, do you want to like FaceTime? I don't know. I FaceTime like my family, maybe best friends sometimes, but like, it's not like a regular thing. But now that's been like the main thing that everyone's been first, I think, joking about, but then really embracing, or at least exploring. And I think what's going to happen is first, now people are comfortable doing it. I've heard, stories of people taking, either having meals together where they prepare them, like they each get the ingredients from, wherever they are. And then like they'll make a meal together and then have it, or you can have a drink together. Or people use like Zoom backgrounds to like go to the beach together. I don't know, something like whatever it is. But besides the playfulness of that, I'm most curious about how this will impact and how much of, what will stick. And I don't think, is it that everyone in the future will always do the first date, on FaceTime or something, or on Zoom? No, I don't think it's like that. But I think that if there's like a sort of a elasticity of people's comfort, whereas previously I usually got a lot of resistance when I would suggest it, I think now a fair amount of people would be like that much more likely to do it. Or, lots of people, have their family Zoom calls now. Like I never had a Zoom call with my cousins and everyone together, but like maybe that's it. Now it feels really nice, to be honest. And so what of the current era will remain? And I think the likelihood of people being more comfortable using video and other technology to connect in advance of an actual, going out on a date is something that will last. And also last thing is that there's a couple of Jewish kids up in Canada that I believe originally I met through like Jswipe users or through a Jswipe like talk or something. But anyways, they just launched a really cool thing called which is video Zoom speed dating. And so they're not Zoom, but like basically digital speed dating. I don't know, there's all this innovation that's coming. That's been the most fascinating thing about this, is like how adaptable humans are. And, we can't, come together, so we work from home. We can't, have Passover together. So, some might, convene digitally or whatever it is. And it's been so wild to see the not just adaptability, but I don't know, how fast and fluid we can, adapt to address, needs, concerns, and, issues in the time of social distancing.
Have you thought about integrating a speed dating element to the Jswipe app?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I think the Jswipe app, you could use some love, with. And in short, the way that we're going to be introducing it at first is through partnering with these great guys. Their app launched, I think, last week, coincidentally. Talk about like cosmic timing. But
hey, that could be the next big thing.
Only because I also think I presume a fair amount of the people on this today will be aware of it too. Are you familiar with the Corona Crush phenomenon that's happening? Yeah. Have you heard of this? Like the Facebook groups where people are basically putting up like friends pictures and pictures. It's just so, mostly in the Jewish world. it's so funny and it's so cool and it's so wild. Meet You, we have someone saying Meet You. Like there's a couple of these groups that have popped up, like emerged, I think really in the last little while, but I love it. I think it's so cool. And I hope that all of that stuff continues.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you said that, because we said in my family the same thing. We don't normally have like this Zoom with everyone on the screen, all the different nieces, nephews, cousins, and it's really beautiful. And it's everyone's saying, why don't we do this before? Like, and people have discovered Zoom. You know, like it's great.
Oh yeah, Rich I invested in Zoom early on, right? Their stock like tripled.
Yeah, it's too late now for those people. Awesome. Okay, so another question that's come in that is also quite topical given the current situation is really to do with people are finding more and more that they're spending time on the computer, on their phones. Perhaps, I mean, whether it was healthy before, but now it's even more time on social media. And you're a good person to ask, like, well, what do you think is a good mindset, good tip that you think can help us manage that addiction or overuse in our lives?
Oof, I think this is maybe the most important topic, that we could talk about today, because this is, this is far deeper and broader than just now, right? Just in current, although definitely accentuated. My eyes, I think, literally have gotten fuzzy. Like, I think I now see things blurry because of the last few weeks. Because it's, for me and our team, we've been working from home and literally on screens, to your point. And then, like, not just like social media and fun stuff, but mostly like Zoom meetings or calls or Slack or this or that from, hours and hours a day. Oof. Yeah. And it's really tough. I know personally, it's like, I at the end of the day, I just feel so like, A, I see fuzzy, B, like I feel so drained. So there are lots, I'm glad you brought it up, because I think it's a really, really important thing, and definitely think that people are experiencing. I think there's a couple of things to discuss. One of them is like there are tactics or ways. Unfortunately, my friend Max is an incredible spoken word poet, and I'll try to share the link in the group or something. But works for an organization. He's like formerly from like tech startup world, and now works for an organization that one of our buddies started called like something about time. Basically, it's about like responsible technology, and the idea that things like Facebook and Instagram and all of these things, their job, and they have billions of dollars to do it, is to design the most addictive, platform that keeps you engaged as long as possible, and which is usually directly at odds with you like going out and enjoying the beautiful world that we live in. And so the idea of how can we get, the brands or the social, platforms to be better is a good idea, but I really believe that it's ultimately on us as individuals to be able to take ownership of that, because I just personally don't trust that they will be able to address this and have our interests in mind, fast enough or soon enough, based on, I guess, the way that their businesses are set up. I think things like screen time is a real big improvement. I mean, I know that every time I look at my screen time, like I believe first iPhone launched it so you could see across your iPhone like what apps you spend time on, which for me is pretty alarming. And then when I know that like Facebook or Instagram launched it, and that's definitely the most alarming. But I think first little things like that, like setting up, so at least getting in the practice of awareness. Like the first thing to address any issue in life is being aware of it. You can't address something if it's you don't even realize or bring energy and time to thinking about even the fact that it's going on. So first, being open to being aware of like how much time do you spend a day on Instagram, on Netflix, on what have you, and also in parallel, a simultaneous awareness of the fact that things like, for example, Netflix, like social channels, like they're designed to keep you there. That you finish that episode and you're like, oh, I don't know, it's getting late. Next episode in 3, 2, boom, and now I don't want to go to sleep, so I'm always up late. So these technologies are designed to keep us in them and keep us in there as long as possible. So therefore, A, realize how much time we're spending. B, realize that the technology, while it might give us a feeling of connection, ultimately, like the technology is not our friend currently. Hopefully in the future it will. And Time Well Spent, by the way. Time Well Spent is the name of the organization. Really cool organization for anyone who's interested in this topic. But I think the couple of things that I recommend are push notifications. I'd suggest for anyone who feels called to explore turning off push notifications for maybe everything, unless maybe it's everything but critical things. I don't know, depending on, what you consider critical. Personally, I have push notifications off for everything, including the critical things, because I know that I'm either way going to be in my texts more regularly. I'm either way going to be in my, email more regularly. But push notifications off, that's a huge one. Another thing is it's all in the same settings tab. Like the little red, like the not just the push notifications, but the little red markers. Like when I open my phone in the morning, if I saw like X amount of emails in the little red, like, again, it's designed in red, and it's designed to be like, it's precisely designed to get you to feel like, oh shoots, I gotta go like make that number 0. So you can turn off all of the indicators, turn off all the push notifications. Something that, people suggest is sleep with your phone out of the room. I will admit, I'm not there yet, but, I am one that, struggles with like probably swiping through Instagram, like last thing before bed and first thing when I wake up. And so lately, especially in the time of Corona, when I've had more time to like be clear with myself and think about these things, is like whatever your morning routine is, like like developing a morning routine that to you sounds like the most exciting, nourishing, like, thing it could be. And then not opening your phone or starting, email or text or Insta or anything until after you finish that routine, whatever it is. And of course, mindfulness, whatever you can do about meditation, making sure you're taking the time and space. And I think maybe we'll end with just on that note, like permission, like give yourself permission to not, to do whatever feels best for you. Like, and frankly, if that, because you're, you feel, more isolated, maybe that is the connection through. It's like, beautiful, you're perfect exactly as you are. If you're feeling like your eyes are fuzzy, like, okay, like then maybe we work on like less screen time, but give yourself permission to be, exactly where and as you are, and or to not respond right away, or to not, feel the, obligated to check in, with that person always, whatever it is. Just be as and where you are. Be with the process.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We don't have long left, so I'm going to slip in one last question that a lot of students have told me, you've got to ask David Yarus this question. So in the proverbial sense, I'm asking for a friend. What are your top tips to making sure that people's profile on Jswipe is pushed to the top in terms of their bio? Do you think a long bio is better in terms of their profile picture? Lots of people, no people. What do you think, based on the algorithms that you know more about than anyone else?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to combine this in 2 questions, and I'll go quickly. The first one is, I guess, tips for tips like literal tactical tips. First, for sure, use all the photo slots. I think, and this is on everything I'm going to say is for any app, but use all of the photos. If you have 5 photo slots, use all of them. Definitely don't be one photo person. Definitely, I don't even think you can on Jswipe, but definitely don't be no photo person. Like if I only see one photo, people generally think it's a fake account or think it's like they're curious. Don't be Where's Waldo, which means like don't be the person that has 3 friends in every photo, so you don't know who actually you're talking to, or like who the person is. So don't be Where's Waldo. Don't be no photo person. That's that. If you're comfortable, different strokes for different folks on this one. But if you're comfortable, you could consider adding your Instagram, because for me personally, like I feel like if someone wants to get a feeling for who I am in my life and like what I think are my way of being, my Insta is definitely far more representative than like a bio and a couple of photos on an app. But some people don't feel comfortable, some people do. That's a open to people's comfort. And then use the bio section, even if it's simple. It's not about your life story, but it's just a simple way to differentiate from anyone else that's on there by just being like thoughtful or being funny or being expressive or just being honest. Whatever it is, it could be a quote, a little bit about yourself, whatever, a joke. Lots of people have really funny humor on Jswipe. I wish I could off the top of my head share some of the hilarious things people say. They're like Jewish puns, and I don't know. And then the other thing I would say, and this is an important one, especially because some people say not just about Jswipe, but about apps in general, like, oh, well, I'm looking for something serious. And like, I don't know, it just seems like that's for, shenanigans. And I believe that technology and tools and apps are for whatever, are tools to allow you to, connection tools to allow you to find, filter for what it is you're looking for. And to that end, if what's important, like let's say if what's important to you is you're only looking for a serious relationship, say it. Don't feel be fully expressed so that you don't get into the situation where maybe you match with someone and maybe you start talking and then down the line you find out like, wait, that person wasn't looking for this anyways. So I see oftentimes people say like serious relationship only, or like different iterations of just sharing their truth. That's a huge one. And then, check in, be responsive. But those are really the main ones. Like, be expressive. I think for photos, people aren't looking for like all glamour shots. Like, tell a bit about who you are through the photo, like things you like to do, or if you like traveling, if you have hobbies or whatever. Okay. And then the other part of that answer, and then sorry, and kick me off if we have to get off. But I think that a more challenging question with that is like, okay, so like, how do we find love with dating apps, or how do we find what we're looking for? And I think honestly, it's like, again, it's like a short, simple process of first getting clear and honest with ourselves about what that is. So if what you want is, if you want to find your person and your ultimate person, like if that's true for you, then okay, great. Like just getting clear on what it is you're looking for. And by the way, if you're just trying to like have fun and be more casual, maybe meet some wonderful people who maybe, by the way, could be your person, that's great too. But first be clear and then act in accordance to what you're looking for. So some people are, they say that I'm looking for my person, but they're still texting their exes and, hanging out with whatever. It's like that it's incongruent, and therefore it'll, be challenging. So first be clear on what it is you're looking for. Then clear space, which is anyone who you're still texting that might not be that, or anyone that you like know. Oftentimes my friends will say like, oh, like, even though if you're still contemplating, like deep down, you already know. Like, okay, great. All of that takes up space. And this isn't just about love. It's I guess, emotional space that you have to hold. And if you're holding any of that in the vessel of you for things that aren't your dream or aren't your goal or aren't whatever, it's taking away from like the space that could be, filled with calling in who your person is. So get clear on what you're looking for, clear space, and then show up fully. I think lots of people for a variety of reasons show up either like with like all of these like sort of protection, self-protection, defense mechanisms to like not get hurt and not like have what just happened to them, play out again. Or so they show up with some distance. And that's, that distance that you're creating to protect yourself is actually the same distance that then keeps love from, stepping in. And the last thing is just like be fully expressed. So whatever is important to you, like be exactly you, and then lean in. Because it's going to take some vulnerability. It's going to be a little bit scary, but like magic doesn't happen in the comfort zone. That goes from, entrepreneurship to, I don't know, trying new things, doing whatever thing unknown, and for sure in love. And so, it might take being a little bit uncomfortable and being a little bit, vulnerable and leaning into the possibility of magic or love or whatever it is. But I truly believe that if someone's clear space, leans in, is fully expressed in who they are, that's like sort of the equation to call in your person. Yeah.
Amazing. There's so much to unpack. It's great because you speak so fast. You contain so much in what you say. It's like you're the kind of person it would be really great to talk to for hours and hours and hours. Unfortunately, we don't, because we have to end our live stream here.
Can I get one more minute before we go? Can I get one more minute to say a quick vort that's really important?
Of course you can.
Two things that I think about very often, kind of like my life mantras. One of them is like blessing, 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 which means to me that all of life is a blessing. Our challenges are blessings. This time for us, and in whatever way it's manifesting for you, is a blessing. So at the end of the day, if I'm frustrated because of an email or a text or this or that, and you ask me, oh, how are you doing right now? And I'm like, oh man, like, well, I just got this text, da, da, da. If I zoom out, like Google Maps, like macro, zoom out, universal view, we are living in thousands of layers of blessings just being here. We could see and eat and feel and think and like have the ability to be on a computer or a device that has internet, and that somehow I can speak and talk to you. Anyways, blessings. And the next one is Shefa. Shefa, which means abundance in Hebrew. Cool to know. I didn't know that until recently. And this is the idea that like anything and everything is possible for you. Whatever you dream, it can actualize if we simply, first realize that we have the capability and capacity of and power to create that which we, desire and dream within our lives and in the world around us, and then be clear on what it is, and then take forth and like take action. So Shefa, we live in an abundant, beautiful world, full of blessing, even in the challenging moments. That's the last piece. And if anyone, this is actually distinctly the opposite, I guess, of like an advertisement. But if anyone who is at home, or I guess wherever they are, would like free Jswipe Premium, which means you don't need to pay. That's why it's the opposite of an advertisement. I'm happy to I'm happy to extend that to anyone here. In order to do that, just shoot me a DM on Instagram, which is just my name, David Yarus, and we will get that set up for you. If you currently pay for Jswipe Premium, we'll get that canceled for you. Don't tell people off record, top secret. And then that's it. Sorry. Thank you so much.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for jumping in and sharing that. That was it's such an important. It's like we forget it sometimes. You suddenly look out the window and it's like, or you watch the news, even worse than looking out the window, and as you can forget so easily, like how fortunate we are. And I like the way you phrased it as well, Shefa. Really an abundance of goodness. So thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Say one more thing about a blessing. One more thing about a blessing.
After that thing, of course you do.
The last thing about a blessing, because we have chef of time, not really, but kind of, is like next time you do a blessing, whatever that blessing may be, let's call it Shabbos, and you're doing, Kiddush, and so you're blessing grapes or like wine, right? A fun game of, I guess, gratitude that I like to play with friends is like, try to unpack, like double click or like expand view of all of the things that go into whatever it is that you're blessing. So if we're blessing wine, it's like, okay, like, thank you, world, for having us and creating, fruit from the vine and wine, and the people who, and grapes, and vines, and sun that like watered, or sun that like sunned upon them, and then earth that somehow grew it, and then rain that rained on it, and then people a long time ago that figured out if you pick it and step on it and squish it and it's the juice, and then it like somehow it creates wine. Like, try to go like down the chain of everything that makes up something that like to us today might just be such a simple thing. Like, if we think about all of the layers and layers of blessing that has been everything that we experience, do, feel, consume ourselves. Anyways, that's that. I had to get that one in.
Like the kind of thing, if you did that for the computer and the Zoom that we're using now, whoa, that'd be hours. But no, amazing. Thank you so much, David, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you everyone who's watching live. Thank you everyone who's watching after live. We'll be posting the video up on our YouTube channel. If you want to get more stuff from Aish UK, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe using the link at the bottom, and also our Facebook and Instagram pages as well, to find out. We've got loads of new initiatives, loads of exciting stuff that's coming up this week. So stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for joining us for our live stream this evening. Thank you, David, for joining us as well. And that's a goodbye from Aish for this evening. Our live stream is now going to finish. Have a fantastic evening, everyone.
Blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.